This packed grid reflects the interest and importance of the event. Another mega fight is on offer, and championships are to be decided right here, right now. It's Petit Le Mans, but there's nothing small about this.
Petit Le Mans has always been a tough endurance race, and with 45 cars here, with the Audi factory, with the Peugeot factory, with a bunch of championships on the line, we're just going to have to keep our nose clean.
The Highcroft team are really focused on getting a really good result. We're going to try and treat this like any other race, but we know the championship's on the line. It's going to make for a fantastic race.
It's what it's all about all year long. That's the main goal you have when you start the season, to win the championship.
It's a long race, a lot can happen. We can win, we can not win. We always knew that if we had a chance, it was going to come down to the end.
The way the racing is in ALMS, you have to push all the way, so you can't just sit back and relax. You have to push, and then you'll make it to the end.
When Dr. Don Panos dreamed of having a smaller version of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, I wonder if that dream looked this good. The fans, teams and drivers from all over the world are here for the 13th annual Petit Le Mans, powered by Mazda 2. Hi folks, Lee Diffie with you here on the front straight, just ahead of the grid at Road Atlanta, and what a moment this is. And as they say, a year makes a difference, doesn't it? Because right here, there was a river of water this time last year running down the front straight. Today, what a beautiful day to go racing on Championship Day. It's the season finale for the American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patron. Normally at this time of the year, the majority of the championships have been clinched. It is so different today. It's wide open. Drivers, manufacturers and teams championships are up for grabs right here, right now. And today also doubles as a round of the newly formed Intercontinental Le Mans Cup. Today is round 2, and we will tell you a lot more about that during today's broadcast. By the way, we are flag to flag. And the American Le Mans Series has a long and rich tradition of bringing groundbreaking technology to the track and to the United States. Today, for the very first time, we see the Porsche 911 GT3 hybrid racing here in Petit Le Mans. And we've got so much more to tell you about that. It's time to say hello to motor racing legend Dorsey Schrader. Dorsey, you've enjoyed a lot of success here at Road Atlanta. Today is Championship Day. The pressure is high.
Enormous pressure. Only 3 times in history has the championship round come to Petit Le Mans. Now that's significant because of the race length here. 1,000 miles. For a car to get points, it has to complete 70% of the race distance, 276 laps around here. Also, an enormous car count from Europe over here. This is not going to be a cruise and collect championship.
Highcroft Racing are defending champions. Guess what? That team is in the mix again, and Chris Neville is there.
Yeah, Lee, last year Simon Pagenaud and David Brabham, they were fierce competitors. Today, they're trying to close out this championship. These drivers had 3 victories early in the season, but they haven't seen victory lane since early July. David, the key is get to 70% and get those points. How do you race the first 70%, and how does everything change after that?
Well, to be honest with you, it shouldn't really change from what we've done all year. So, you know, our focus is on doing well, getting on the podium. Obviously, winning the race is a goal for us. But if we do all of that, everything else will really fall into place. So you start thinking about 70%, you may only just get to 30%.
Well, Highcroft looking for this championship, but also looking for their first win at Petit Le Mans. For more on another tight championship, Jamie Howe.
For the first time in series history, we come into the final round with a dead tie in the LMPC class. The same number of wins, the same number of seconds, and the same number of thirds. So Gunnar Jeanette, we'll start with you. You're actually starting at the back of the pack. You guys changed tires after a spin in qualifying. So what's the strategy for the race?
Well, we qualified second, but like you said, unfortunately we had a spin. Our strategy remains the same. We're just going to go out there, try to stay out of trouble, stay on the lead lap, wait for nightfall, and see where we end up.
Well, Gunner's going to get some extra rest because they're running 3 drivers, but Scott Tucker, you're running in 2 different cars, just as you have all season long, but it's a long race, so how are you going to manage the pressure?
You know, like you said, we've been doing this all season, so we're somewhat conditioned for it. The team's good. We're prepared for that. Like Gunner said, this is going to be a long race. It's going to come down to the end, and with all the traffic, speed's important, but the mental aspect of being sharp and staying out of trouble, I think, is going to be really the key at the end.
Good stuff. We look forward to that. We look forward to this race on the whole. It's one of the largest fields in the history of Petit Le Mans. 5 different classes on offer today, and one of Speed's analysts, Calvin Fish, is excited to be here. Cal, we said right at the top of the show, we're promising a mega fight. That mega fight features Audi versus Peugeot. It's on again. We know they race each other in Europe, but the big ones that count are Sebring, Le Mans, and Petit Le Mans. This is going to be great.
It's going to be greatly, certainly, and Audi versus Peugeot over the last few years has really turned into one of those classic sports car rivalries, and here today the fans, for the final time on US soil, will see this latest generation of diesel sports cars go head-to-head. The rules are changing next year. There's new cars on the drawing board as we speak, but Audi has really dominated here at Petit since the year 2000. They won 9 in a row. Last year looked like they might have got that 10th, but ALMS, under extraordinary circumstances, spun his car in the rainy conditions. They never got to the front of the pack again, and then the race was called. So they want the trophy back, but to get it back, it will have been a long, hard week for Audi. They've damaged 2 race cars beyond repair, and that is really strange. Tom Christensen is back. He hasn't seen Petit since 2002, the 8-time Le Mans winner. He damaged the car. They went to the backup, and they thought, wow, will we be vulnerable race weekend? They brought in the museum car, the car that won at Le Mans this year, as a backup. Good thing they did, because yesterday in practice, Dindo Capello had another major off. They switched that to Le Mans winning car as their race car for today. So the stakes are high as Peugeot and Audi really try and score that final victory of the major endurance championship races here this 2010 season.
You got a tip for us?
It's going to be tight, I tell you what. But we saw McNish, we're looking down at turn 1. He's going to want this win.
We're talking a lot about Audi. We're going to talk a lot about Peugeot, and Chris Neville is in the Lion's Den.
Well, Lee, back at Le Mans, it looked like Peugeot had Audi covered, but early Sunday morning, everything went bad for Peugeot. They had engine failures in their 3 front-running cars. Audi came away with a 1-2-3 at Le Mans. Flash forward 3 months, once again, Peugeot looking very strong here this weekend. Audi still seems to be scratching their head on this R15 Plus. Anthony Davidson put the 07 car on pole by half a second. Are you surprised at that margin with the Audis?
Yeah, to be honest, we were. But then again, qualifying's one thing and the race is another. We saw that in Silverstone just a few weeks ago in the LMS, where the Audis out-qualified us by a second. And then we got them in the race and we pulled away. So, like I say, anything can happen, and we just got to be there at the end.
Well, if Peugeot could come away with victory today, they'll be 3 in a row on U.S. soil. For more on the Audi story, Justin Bell with Mr. Le Mans.
Yes, Tom Christensen certainly is the superstar of sports car racing, in my eyes anyway, Tom. And let's go back a few months to Le Mans, where we actually were in a similar position to this. It had been a very tough week of practice and qualifying, and yet on the grid just behind the Peugeots, went on for ultimate success. Do you have any feeling, anything you learned from that standing here?
Yeah, certainly we have. I mean, there's no doubt that Peugeot has the faster car, but we certainly want to win the race. It can happen at Le Mans. It can happen here in a different situation in terms of the traffic, in terms of the nature of the track. But I think we have improved our car, and we are certainly a lot closer here. And actually at Silverstone a couple of weeks ago, we were faster than them in qualifying. And this morning I was the fastest in the warm-up. So I hope we can pull all this together and have let's say, a heck of a race.
Yeah, I mean, it's 9 hours, and just one very quickly, the traffic is a huge feature, and you've got to deal with that.
You've got to deal with that. The design of the circuit back then made all the corners blind, so everyone wants to look forward. It's difficult to watch the mirrors. It is a huge challenge for any driver and car out there.
It's going to be, as you say, a heck of a race.
Thanks, Justin. Yeah, we wish Mr. Le Mans, TK, Tom Christensen all the best. Well, that's prototypes out of the way. We need to talk about GT, and throughout the 2010 season, the GT divisions have given us colossal racing. When we come back, we'll put the spotlight on GT2. Stick around.
And here comes the other Ferrari. Just as we were talking about. On the right, and takes both of them. And he's got the inside here. He'll have to take to the grass. Oh, Patrick.
This is the championship leader.
Oh, this is huge.
And here we see a battle, same place as the Corvette and the Ferrari got together. This time it's BMW versus Corvette.
Dirk Mueller takes the victory here. Speed's coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by BMW, the ultimate driving machine, and by Michelin, a better way forward.
In addition to the Audi-Peugeot fight, everybody is talking about the battle that will unfold in GT2. And throughout the 2010 championship, BMW, Ferrari, and Porsche have all enjoyed victories. That's why it is so tight. Now, as far as the Drivers' Championship concerned, it's a little more relaxed for the Flying Lizard duo of Pat Long and Jörg Bergmeister. They don't have it yet, but it's close. However, the story is very different. In the manufacturer's chase and the team's chase, it's exactly the same scenario. A solitary point separates the top two. And don't discount Ferrari either. They still believe that they can win this championship. So it's fitting we go to Ferrari now with Jamie Howe.
Well, Lee, you certainly can't discount Ferrari because Ferrari is starting first through fourth on the GT grid today. Jimmy Bruni, you're starting second. You're still in the fight for the Manufacturers' Championship, but how important is today for Ferrari?
Yeah, it is a very important day for the last race. Obviously, this Petit Le Mans is Intercontinental Cup race, the second one of this championship, small championship. So it's very, very important. We have to finish and try to get to the checkered flag as high as possible.
Right now, they're still behind BMW, and for more on that, here's Chris Neville.
Well, BMW is in a great spot in this championship. While they've only racked up one victory, the M3s have seen the podium 10 different times. And it was Joey Hand and Dirk Mueller who had that victory at Road America. But Joey, Ferraris, they locked out the top four spots on the grid. Can they be beat today?
Oh, sure. We're not too worried about that in a long race, you know. As drivers, we're supposed to be smart today and get this thing to the end. I'm planning on this brilliant BMW Rahal Letterman strategy from Bobby Rahal and Scott Remke and these awesome pit stops to get us to the front. I can tell you one thing, Chris, joy never says never.
Well, BMW is going to fight hard today, and let's not forget the Corvettes. They're still looking for their first victory in 2010. But for more on the GT Drivers' Championship, Justin.
Jörg Bergmeister, driver of the 45 Flying Lizard. You have the chance to become the only second driver to win 5 championships here in ALMS, but I'm sure that doesn't affect your sort of approach to this long race.
I mean, we're in a lucky position that we have quite a nice lead in the championship points, so basically all we need to do is finish in the top 10 and then the championship is ours. That's the main goal. We obviously have to see what the Ferrari is doing. If there's a chance, definitely we want to win the race as well, so we'll see what happens.
We wish Jörg, Patrick, and the Flying Lizards all the best. Now, we're all familiar with hybrid technology in passenger road cars, but on the racetrack, it is altogether something different, and Porsche is the benchmark yet again. They bring for the very first time to the United States their GT3R hybrid. It raced earlier this year at the Nürburgring 24. It almost won. It retired from the event at the 22-hour mark, but it led for some 8 hours. This is groundbreaking technology, and it is here. Let's hear more about it with Justin Bell.
I'm standing here with Timo Bernhardt, driver of the very exciting Porsche Hybrid. Now, Timo, Petit Le Mans is exciting enough as a driver anyway, but add in the new technology, it must really be a special event for you.
For sure, it's my 8th time here at Petit Le Mans, and I always enjoyed coming here. Great racetrack, great fans, nice weather mostly. And then this year I'm here with the GT3R Hybrid, which is a new technology, but we're here to bring that car to North America, to show to the fans, to show to the media. And for us, it's a little bit like a race lab, you know, and to test it under race circumstances, to get more knowledge about the system, and also to present it to the people. And so far, it's working really good.
I'll obviously come back and talk to you later in the race, but tell me the main difference with the technology for you as a driver. Does it require more concentration while you're doing a lap?
You're doing more stuff than just braking and steering, and so you have another new item to play with. I would say it's that boost pedal, as we call it, because when you brake, you store up the storage, so there will be more, the energy that you under braking gain, it will be stored, and then you can actually, over the boost pedal, get extra power, extra boost on the track, but it's up to the driver to know exactly where you want to have that extra boost. So it's quite interesting because every driver has a little bit different strategy, and it's not so easy, but it's quite interesting, and it's, like I say, a new technology, and we're making quite good progress.
Well, it is a sign of the future, and Timo's a very lucky man to be here representing it. Great job.
A special car and a special trio. The Le Mans winning trio of Rockefeller, Dumas and Bernard driving that very significant car. More from Road Atlanta when we come back to Petit Le Mans. What a day, what a field, what a race this is going to be. As one last person we have to say hi and hear from. It's the man who calls the American Le Mans Series for speed all year long. We say hi to our friend and colleague Brian Till. Brian?
Well, thanks very much, Lee. Plenty of excitement on store here today, and why would there not be? It is an absolutely beautiful day here in Georgia and Road Atlanta, one of the most challenging racetracks these drivers face all season long. And with 45 entries, that is the third largest entry in the 13-year history of Petit Le Mans. We're talking traffic from the drop of the green to the checkered flag. And what that means, traffic density. You'd have to go back to Lime Rock Park this year to find a similar traffic density. We know what a bull ring it is and the kind of racing that it breeds. Expect to see the same type of excitement here today. Also, championships on the line. Manufacturers, team, and drivers championships as well. So who better to take us for a lap around this challenging racetrack than a championship leading driver? That would be Patrick Long. And of course, he's going to take us for a lap, and it'll be in a Porsche.
Join me for a lap of Road Atlanta in this beautiful new Porsche Cayenne Turbo. Down into turn 1, hard braking, release the brake early, feel the car get light. Early throttle as it's uphill. Turn 3 is again blind on your entry. You come over the top of the hill, straight line braking. Downhill S's are completely blind on turn-in. You use every inch of the racetrack here. You can get it flat out in a GT3R. Early throttle as it's uphill. Use all the exit curb here and then some. Keep the traction all the way down to turn 6. This is very fast. It's an overtaking place, but also it's all about minimum speed. So release the brake early. Let the car all the way out on exit. You'll feel a little bit of oversteer. Braking for turn 7, all the way out on your exit curb. It's a winding straightaway, so you're going for it all the way down. Braking for 10A and B is a key overtaking place. Use all of the curb on turn-in. Turn 11 is completely blind. It's flat out over the crest. Down into turn 12 is one of the fastest corners in road racing. That's a lap of Road Atlanta here in the new Cayenne Turbo.
Wow, pretty spectacular stuff. A great lap in that Porsche Cayenne, and he gave us great shots. We're going to give you great shots as well. The Porsche Hybrid Onboard Pass will have some great onboard shots for you all day long. 10 different machines. The ESM Ferrari, the 02, the 16 Lola from Dyson Racing, the 45 Flying Lizard Porsche. More Ferraris there at Risi Competizione, the BMWs of BMW Rahal Letterman. The Porsche Hybrid, that's going to be great to watch. You'll point out some of the lights on the dashboard there, Calvin, for us, and we can tell when that system is charging, when the driver uses. The 99, the Orica from Green Earth Team Gunner. Remember, that's the championship that is tied up. The pace car is rolling, the field is underway, and we've certainly heard from the leaders in LMP1, LMP2, LMP Challenge. As you look at the grid roll in the strip at the top of the screen, we also heard from your championship leaders in the GT category. But what about GT Challenge? For more on that, let's head back down to the pits and Jamie.
Well, Brian, the championship leaders in the GTC class is Black Swan Racing. They only have to finish in the top 10 in order to clinch the championship today. So Tim Pappas, owner and driver, does that help take some of the pressure off from the race?
Well, yeah, for sure. Being out in front, you're ahead of the pack. You know, hopefully we'll stay out of trouble and just keep it there.
All right, it's going to be a long race today. For more from Pit Lane, here's Justin.
Seconds before the Audis pulled out, I spoke with Dr. Ulrich, the head of their motorsports program, and asked him about the traffic, and he said, well, you know, we're going to probably have 3 or 4 wonderful laps, great racing, fast pace with those Peugeots, and then we're going to hit the back markers. And he said, and that is the way the race will be for the rest of these 9 or so hours. So traffic is going to play a huge part of this, and you guys at home on TV have got the best seat in the house. So, Chris, what have you got?
Well, Justin, one thing we need to remember with pit stops is you can't change tires until you're done refueling. Changing tires takes about an additional 10 seconds. So can some of these teams double stint these tires over the course of 1,000K? Talking to most prototype teams, they think they can double stint. GT, a little bit different story. Both Ferrari and BMW thinking that they might be able to double stint tires, while Porsche and Corvette not very confident.
Well, you know, we heard him talk about catching back markers within a few laps. The problem is it's not really back markers. I mean, these prototypes, especially the diesels, are so fast. They're going to be in the thick of certainly the GT Challenge battle and LMP Challenge battle probably within 6 or 7 laps.
Well, exactly, and it's not just down the straightaways. I mean, this racetrack ebbs and weaves its way through these hills here, and it's very hard to see these cars. Even if you're being careful, Dorsey, looking in those rearview mirrors, having the team radio the information, they can still suddenly surprise you, and you're going to be out there doing your own battle, and suddenly you're going to have one of these fast prototypes coming alongside you.
Put it in perspective. You look at the corner speed for turn 1, and a GTC car goes in there with full brake application going down 1 gear, whereas a prototype car goes in there dead flat out, or at the very minimum, just a lift. So, I mean, that difference right at that point of the racetrack is enormous.
Well, and think about this, too. You look at the lineup. Peugeot's on the front row. Audi's on the second row. But look at the drivers in those cars. Marc Genet will start from the pole. Montigny, remember, he was one of the winning drivers here last year. He knows this racetrack, knows how to get the job done. Then you've got Marcel Fassler in the number 9 car inside the second row. But Alan McNish in that Audi outside second row. Where's he going at the drop
Well,
of the green?
he's looking for the lead. I tell you what, we were down there getting ready for the pre-race segment of this show, and Alan McNish walked down to turn 1 and took a long, hard look, and he's trying to determine where's he going to make his move. So I would expect Montigny has a lot more laps around here than Genet, certainly, so our pole sitter may backpedal a little bit when we go to green, but McNish will want by. Remember, they raced at Silverstone a couple of weeks ago, and it was McNish doing battle with one of these Peugeots until Audi suffered a rare differential failure.
Dorsey, at the drop of the green, you know, a lot of times drivers will kind of lay off a little bit in practice to get a run to see what it's going to be like at the start. How well does Alan McNish know not only his car, but this racetrack?
Well, I think that's exactly what Calvin was talking about. We saw Alan walk down there and actually just really study turn 1. He's got a plan. There's no doubt about it. You can do turn 1 on the first lap flat out because you're not up to speed yet. But that being said, the tires are not up to pressure yet, nor do they have a lot of heat in them. So we've seen crashes at turn 1 at the start here before, hopefully not again.
Well, Alan starts on the outside of the second row, and that is essentially putting you on the correct racing line for turn 1. So the guys on the inside really have to defend quite a bit, but they're teammate versus teammate, Peugeot versus Audi.
Guys, I've been coming here since 1970. This is the most people I've ever seen here. It's just packed to the gills here.
I was going to say, the crowd is absolutely spectacular, as is the weather. If you think back to last year, which I prefer not to do, it was just awful. But what they're about to see here, 1,000 miles worth of racing, and it'll probably be done in less than 9 hours, but we're about to find out because the green flag's about to fly. Oh, and you saw Genet get a little loose as he comes down the hill to the front straightaway. The green flag waves. Here we go. McNish already on the charge.
Look at John Field. He's looking for a way by one of these diesels. He gets it. Side by side up through turn 1. Hairy stuff. John Field, the man on cold tires.
McNish looking on the 08, trying to find a way around Montigny. John Field
he's got him.
Black and orange. He's gotten him. The black and orange 37. McNish has gotten past Montigny. Field up to third in the black and orange Lola, the number 37.
What a move by Alan McNish. These diesel cars, Dorsey, are really twitchy on cold tires, but McNish totally committed.
And you see him right now swerving back and forth. He wants to get by John Field. John's car will be very fast up this straightaway.
This is Fassler here in the second of the Audis. Remember, he ran for Corvette last year before being drafted in to Audi on a full-time basis.
Now we know that the 37, the Intersport entry, very, very fast with the twin-turbo AER power plant in the back of the Lola. John Field saying, hey, James Weaver came down and helped us the other day. This car is magic. It feels like it's got an extra 200 horsepower because he's helped us really settle it down.
Saw Montigny there weaving around on the straightaway, just trying to generate some tire temp. Maybe he went wide there with McNish. May have got a little bit of pickup on those tires, Dorsey, just trying to get those tires in good shape for the next corners.
You want your tire pressures right through here. Turn 12 completely flat out. The car sucks all the way down to the ground. We even see him when they got the tire pressures up, bottoming quite hard there and on the climb of the hill right here in turn 1 as well.
Genet leading overall, then Alan McNish, Montigny, and Fassler. Remember, all Michelin's on all 4 of the front runners. John Field running on the Dunlop tires. He's moved up to 4, so it's 3 Michelin shod cars, and then John Field in his Dunlop shod Lola.
We were talking to Davidson and Wirtz the other night about John Field. They said, boy, in practice even, he is totally committed. I said, welcome to the world of John Field. This is his playground, boys.
Well, that's just it. A lot of the European teams come over, and they're not exactly sure of these other drivers. Here's one of the cars that competes on a regular basis. The 16, Chris Dyson behind the wheel, leading P2. Remember, this team won the P2 category here last year.
Simon Pagenaud just took over second place right there going into turn 6 with a good move to the inside. That's second and third in P2.
Let's watch the cars down the straightaway. Highcroft to switch back to the high downforce package. Is mega through the corners, particularly turn 1. That's really the most impressive car. But down this straightaway, they've been about 7 to 8 miles an hour down on the Porsche in qualifying trim. Race is a little bit different.
Down into the braking zone, Pagenaud in front of Graf. Remember, this is the prototype championship for the 2010 American Le Mans Series. It's P2 today, but all season long it's been combined into the prototype championship, and it's Brabham and Pagenaud with the lead right now.
I tell you what, that sounded off there, the spider there. I'm not sure if there's a problem. Graf is backing up a little bit. Listen to it, Dorsey. The exhaust note sounds off.
Calvin, you were just talking about that downforce package on the Highcroft car, and just talking some numbers here, talking with the team, Robin Hill earlier this weekend, when they went to that low downforce package for Le Mans, it was about 1,000 pounds less downforce than what they started with at Sebring. This weekend, now going with the bigger wing, bigger dive planes up front, they've got about 750 pounds of that 1,000 that they lost back.
That is certainly significant. It really helps the handling, but we're still listening to that engine note, Dorsey. I was really surprised the way that Pagenaud stretched it out down this back straightaway, because the spider has been quicker all week long. And here we see Pagenaud now closing in on the gearbox of Chris Dyson.
Look at this, the battle coming into the braking zone. McNish beginning to close in on Genet in front. We said it was going to be a fight from the beginning, and no one is hungrier for redemption than Alan McNish.
No, he is a fierce competitor, and he really wants this victory here. He probably all year has been thinking about that little spin that he had under caution last year. Essentially cost Audi their 10th consecutive victory at this remarkable race. He wants redemption here today.
Definitely off on the, like you were talking about before, Calvin, with the Porsche Spider. It's way off on straightaway speed. Something wrong there. Here's a pass.
This was just a lap ago. It was Frank Montagny who worked his way past McNish. McNish now trying to hold on a little further back. You saw the other Audi of Fessler trying to get around John Field and already into GT traffic.
Look at Montagny, he's now come alive. It seems like his tires have now got up to temperature. Dorsey, we saw him weaving around early on. He has a lot more experience, and we see little wisps of smoke there. That means they're running really rich with that diesel as he powers down that straightaway. It's almost like a boost control. You get a bit more power out of that engine.
And Dr. Ulrich was right. It only took 3 laps for these guys to come into the back of the field and start lapping through.
Montagny already on the back wing of Marc Genet in the 07. You can tell the difference between the two cars when you watch them come towards you. 07, the dark mirrors, 08, the white colored mirrors, and you see McNish in the background. Marcel Fassler has gotten past John Field, so it seems like once the tires have come up to temperature, that has been important. We've also seen John Field run very strong in the beginning. The Dunlops just seem to come up to temperature quicker, but then drop off performance-wise sooner as well.
Yeah, certainly the tires, they've come a long way. The Dunlop tire is now really a remarkable tire. I mean, Michelin seem to have their own way here in the prototype category, but now Dunlop has certainly made a lot of strides. But for this team, I think the bigger concern here is today over the course of 10 hours is will that engine survive? Look at this, traffic here amongst the leaders.
That is the Radical SR9, the black and yellow car, a car that we do not see often. He showed up at Road America. They were not able to start. So in the way right now is the battle. Look at the traffic.
Look at McNish. He closes in on the Peugeots in traffic. And I think that's going to be the ace up their sleeve as McNish's experience in these type of conditions.
Well, as you guys can see, the diesels are starting to pull away from John Field. And yesterday, that team, they lost an engine. Today, they found out that the E85 that they're running is a different formula than what they've been used to. So it isn't generating, or it isn't as cool as the previous formula. And what they were doing is they were burning up spark plugs. This morning, they found that out. They were having some issues in the morning practice. They realized they've really got to turn that motor back. They can't rev it up as high. They've also got to turn the turbo down. So that team is about down on about 200 horsepower compared to what they were earlier in the week.
Well, at the drop of the green, John Field became the only driver to start every running of Petit Le Mans. It's Marc Genet right now who leads over Frank Montagny and Alan McNish. The excitement is already building, and we've just begun. Beautiful day here at Road Atlanta, the 13th running of Petit Le Mans, powered by Mazda 2 this year. And in the leaders up front, the Peugeots running 1 and 2. Marc Genet, followed by last year's winner, Frank Montagny. We expected the Peugeots to be strong. Indeed, they are, but there are certainly championships at stake in the P2 category. We talked about that coming in. Right now, the number 6 Team Cytosport Muscle Milk entry, Klaus Graf, having problems behind the wheel of that number 6 Porsche. For more, let's head to the pits.
Well, Brian, I just checked in with team manager Jeff Carter. He said, we've had this engine misfire. We had it this morning in the morning warm-up, and it's kind of been an anomaly all year long. It just comes up here and there. Right now, though, the plan is just to ride it out. They've exhausted all of their options. They said the car sounds terrible, but they're not that far off the pace, and they have a feeling that they can still survive this race, so they're just going to let the car keep on going.
Yeah, they said it sounds terrible. Jeff Carter, the team manager there at Team Cytosport, talking to Klaus Graf on the radio a little while ago, saying, just hang in there, buddy. Let's see what we can do.
Frustrating, but let's stay with it for now. Just stay with it. We're trying to work something here. Stay with it. You're doing a great job.
Well, he's lost 5 miles per hour down the straightaway, and this is a long back straightaway we're talking about. So it's misfiring, Calvin. It's not really, and they have had this as the year went through. We've heard that before.
And the problem is a lot of these other categories will run about a similar speed. The GTC cars will run about 155, GT2 cars. So, I mean, this really makes it very difficult for Klaus Graf to deal with traffic. You end up doing it under braking. That's a lot more difficult than just powering by someone down the straightaway.
See, as he fights right there with the GT2 Jaguar. But Dorsey, when you've got a miss in a car, it's not running the way it needs to run. How much stress does that put on the components? Because not everything's firing the way it should.
Well, usually just that one cylinder becomes suspect because it's not accelerating at the same rate the other ones that are hooked to it through the crankshaft are. So you don't usually want to run one that long, but you know what they're looking for. Obviously, it's going to be a caution, or they're going to certainly wait for, they're not going to come in unless they have to this early in this race.
Well, we talked about traffic playing a role in the race today. It already has. Alain Monish has worked his way past Frank Montagny in traffic, and you can see the leaders working right now. We said a few laps. It only took 6 laps to get to the lead in GT2. Let's take a look. Monish onto the front straightaway.
Wow, and there's a real gaggle of them, all 3 together. Montagny looks to the inside. And,
it's actually Genet that goes from first to third.
Yeah, but you know, I think Genet was smart there. He just saw this all coming. He lets it happen. He doesn't even make an attempt to turn in. It's just too early in the race.
Oh, he hits it. McNish tagged the rear end of Montagny there as they go into turn 1.
Just as I was saying, it was too early in the race.
So it's Montagny to the lead, McNish to second. Genet says, you know what, I think this is a long race. I'm not going to have any of this right now, as McNish flashes through turn 1.
We talked about in the Open the fact they've gone through 2 race cars here this weekend. They've not been major crashes. The guys that run off, one was right there in turn 3 at Dindo Capello yesterday. The other one was Christensen down through turn 12. And the front splitter on the R15 is now built out of aluminum instead of carbon, because when the carbon splitters were coming out of the mold, they weren't consistent, Dorsey. It was affecting the downforce level of the race car. They built it with aluminum. The trouble is when you run off, it literally peels up like a tin can and then damages the underside of the race car.
And it is those last-minute dive-ins to make a pass that I think is the danger area here at Road Atlanta. And talking with team management at both Audi and Peugeot, in their driver briefings, they were very clear to say, you know, you need to be fast, you need to save fuel, you need to be efficient. But if you make a mistake, if you touch another car, we will not win this race. And so, you know, at the pace they're running, that kind of a move, Alan's so aggressive, he's doing exactly what he needs to, but Genet checked up a little unexpectedly. And up to that point, I have to say, watching the monitors, I thought they'd been rather circumspect about their passing in traffic. You could see them almost holding a second, thinking, better to lose a second here. My team on the data, on the telemetry, will know that it's traffic and not my bad driving. And Ulrich said to me, he was like, you know, you try telling a driver that if they drop a couple of seconds, we're not going to notice and we're going to think they're off the pace. He said they still can't get it through their heads that we do understand about the demands of this track. So it really is yin and yang out there, but Alain Monish certainly knows how to do it.
One of the concerns you're going to have later in this race, the moves that McNish is making down through the S's, Dorsey, where he's going around the outside, there's going to be marbles out there. And when he starts to make those moves later in the race, you're going to get pickup. You may not have the grip in the next corner. So these race conditions are really going to change over the next few hours.
You know, you get that pickup and you just push off the outside of the race car. And we've shown the Audis have been so strong in the past, but this is a weak link. Alan McNish a moment ago was talking to his crew, and he was asking them about the gearbox in the Audi. And they came back and they said, no, the gearbox is okay. So telemetry telling the guys in the pits the temperatures of the gearbox are okay, but for Alan to make that statement means he's having a difficulty within the gearbox shifting.
Well, we've already seen pickup off the cars out there, and don't forget the GT cars these guys are going by, they are driving at the limit too. It's Jamie Mello right now who leads the GT2 category, followed by teammate Tony Vilander, then Scott Sharp. Ferraris 1, 2, 3, not at all uncommon to see Risi Competizione up at the front of the grid with their 2 cars, but ESM, Extreme Speed Motorsports, led by Scott Sharp, that team has really turned things around. They found the handle on that Ferrari, qualified 2nd at Mosport, and that great qualifying here as well for those 2 cars.
Oh, it's been tremendous. I mean, it's really hard to learn the ropes. You come in with the same car as Risi, but certainly finding out what the sweet spot is with the car, and then learning the strategy too. They've had a fast race car at times this year, ESM, but sometimes the strategy has got away from them. They've learned, they've got some great people on board. They're really going to be one of the strong GT contenders for the championship next year.
Yeah, and Calvin, we've seen the speed kind of come and go with that team, but after Mosport, they went back to the shop and said, you know what, we got to baseline this thing. We got to get it back to how it was delivered to us and start again from there and really look at all of our notes. So when we think about setting up these cars, we typically look at springs, shocks, sway bars, aerodynamics, but this team also looking at the differential in these cars. How does the car work better in the corner going in and coming out? But you're tuning that differential. Dorsey, that's something that you could probably get into up in the booth.
Well, the other side of the Ferrari ladder is Risi Competizione. Currently leading right now is Jamie Mello. The team is certainly happy about that, but what they're unhappy with is at the start of the race, Tony Vilander, the 62 car, came over the radio and said Jamie hit him. So the team had to get on the radio with both drivers and say, we need you guys to calm down. We need both of these cars to finish the race today, and having contact between the 2 of you, we can't have that anymore. So calm down, and we need to finish this one.
Well, it's funny because that's why they actually started Tony Vilander instead of Jimmy Bruni, because Jimmy and Jamie haven't been getting along too well, and now they've got that. But look at this battle right here. Scott Sharp in the thick of it, followed by the number 90 BMW, Dirk Mueller behind the wheel, and then the 2 Corvettes. So great battle in GT2, just like we've seen all year. Look at the speed differential. You want to see the bump that Jamie was talking about? Look at that.
Oh, that was a side-to-side hit, too. That wasn't a push on.
And
wow.
I think Jamie Mello's had to prove a point here this weekend. I mean,
the 23.
Here. That's one of the championship contenders in the GTC battle here. So this is not good news for Alex Job Racing.
And that is a very big impact zone in turn 12. That's taken flat out usually. So this car that's not going to be a little hit. Bill Squeedler behind the wheel. You see that bodywork laying there to the right of the car.
You know, it's interesting. We don't know if traffic was a part of that. One of the things that we said, you know, at the beginning of the show, traffic's going to play a big factor. And you get these guys getting into these corners and a prototype dives underneath you and you move just a few inches and react, it takes you out of the limit of the car and the car is off.
Well, it's the point that Calvin was making before. Some of these cars, if you move offline, it's going to get that pickup as the race goes on, and the car will refuse to turn. You'll just plow right off.
See Sweedler there, stuck in that gravel trap just in front of that soft tire wall. You can just see the impact from this.
Oh, that's a funny angle to be at.
No other cars around, though.
Yeah, I was looking at it before on the other shot. You saw some grass that had been mowed across the outside of turn 11 there on the approach. So I'm not sure whether he got hit. No, he just drops 2 wheels. Yeah. There you see it. Drops too well. Hairy part of the racetrack, particularly in one of these GTC machines. They don't develop the downforce that you see with these prototypes flashing through turn 12. You've really got to be on your toes through that part of the racetrack.
Well, if you wonder why we get you good shots, it's because Ricardo on the camera right there is telling you all about it and showing you the pictures, that's for sure. So we are going to bring you good pictures. You can get photos or videos, yours or ours. It's all available on American Le Mans Series official Facebook page, facebook.com/ALMS.official. You can post your comments, photos, videos, or take in ours. So be social, be a Facebook fan of the American Le Mans Series. There is a great crowd on hand. The weather is perfect. Join us when we come back to Road Atlanta. You can climb behind the wheel with some of your favorite American Le Mans Series drivers for the ultimate 2-screen experience. It's Speed Onboard Pass, presented by Porsche. Get more at speed.com, American Le Mans section. Under full course caution because of Bill Sweedler's accident in turn 12, and the pits have just now opened. It looks like at least an Audi coming to pit road, Peugeots as well. Our first round of pit stops here in the 13th running of Petit Le Mans. McNish to his marks. Justin?
Yes, watching the Audi mechanics on the wall as the number 9 comes in just behind Alan McNeish. It's incredible with the team have been standing by very nervously. Remember, it's difficult for the mechanics as well as the drivers to get into this race, so there's always a great sense of anticipation. As tires go on, McNeish takes a drink. Looking at the front end of the car, there is no damage to the front splitter on the Audi number 7. Chris?
Well, Peugeot splitting up their strategy already, leaving that lead car out since it's going to have a clear run once we go back to green. But the 07 car, the car that had pole in pit lane, doing a driver change. They did full fuel and tires and also put Alex Verts behind the wheel.
Clear.
Interesting to see Peugeot split the strategy, and Audi did not, as you look at all the prototype cars on pit lane, but I also see a GT2 car there as well, Calvin.
Yeah, and there's a new rule that's in place. They initiated at Motorsport the last round to just really create less chaos in pit lane. They've split the classes, so there's more room for all the teams, but we see one of the Jags in there, and Bill Barfield, the chief steward, has said if you have a major problem, you are allowed to come down pit lane and try and rectify it, but you will still have to do a repit during your designated time, so you can't get any advantage of pitting out of sequence.
Strange for the Peugeot to do a driver change after 16 laps. You know, I don't know what the strategy there would be.
Yeah, the 33 car, that's the second car out of the Jag stable, and had a problem in practice the other day with an engine problem, which we have not seen with this team over the last several rounds, really making progress, but certainly they're working underneath the hood, and that telltale smoke is not really a good sign.
Yeah, early season drama with this car was the engine, and they really seem to have found some new consistency with that, and they've really found a lot of pace. I mean, it's been a long, dark road for Paul Gentilozzi and his boys to really find speed with this Jag, but they've made a lot of progress. Trying 2 cars here, Dorsey. This is the original chassis that was basically reworked and got some new things on that. So they're working hard. They're going to try and come back next year with vengeance and really show some speed, which we're naturally expecting from the Rocket Sports organization.
And that looked to be probably an oil leak back in the engine bay somewhere. That smoke just kept coming out, which means everything's covered in oil in there more than likely. Hopefully they can fix that. It's not the problems they had at the beginning of the year where they had internal issues.
You know, I actually spoke to Butch Leitzinger the other day, who was driving one of those cars along with Andy Wallace, and he said, you know, my first time in the car, it is a good car. Mechanically, it's got good grip. We've got what we need there. We need to work on a little bit of weight, probably get some weight off the car, which is something that Paul Gentilozzi has told us. A little work to the aerodynamics, but he said he was very impressed with the program that Paul has built.
Yeah, and they're also looking at their tire options for next year. Been running with Yokohama this year, but Paul Gentilozzi always looking for that edge. And now we see the GT cars hitting pit lane for the first time.
See the 02, the Extreme Speed Motorsports Ferrari leading in front of the 61 car. That is the one with the yellow banner, the red Ferrari from Risi, and it is a gaggle of cars coming down pit road.
Yeah, Brian, it is getting crowded here. This is going to be a crazy pit stop. The 01 coming in. Scott Sharp having a great run in the opening laps here. He's going to do a driver change, get Dominic Farnbacher behind the wheel. They're going to do tires and fuel, and this team also bringing in strategist Mike Evans this weekend to help them out. Evans, Dominic Farnbacher not doing that driver change, so Scott Sharp going to stay behind the wheel. But getting back to Mike Evans, he helped the 9 car at Rolex 24 get the victory. Also, 49 wins at Alex Job over the years. 6 at Sebring, 1 at Daytona, 2 Le Mans, and 4 at Petit. These guys are great pit stop. Jamie?
Both the 61 and the 62 Ferrari were just on pit road. The 61, though, had trouble refiring. Jimmy Mello did stay behind the wheel of the car. It is a tight pit lane. There was near contact with the Corvette, but everyone got out clean. Very quick pit stops from the Ferrari guys this weekend.
Wow. Yeah, they've really been working hard, and you could see the chaos. Imagine if the prototypes were in at the same time. But Ferrari have really been working hard on their pit stops. I mean, they have, we laugh about this, they say we have bigger nuts, meaning their wheel nuts have more surface area. It takes longer to get those wheel guns to really work hard to get the wheels on and off. They've also switched the air jack from the right side over to the left side in case they go left side tires only. They feel they can disconnect that a lot quicker and get the car back onto the racetrack.
Well, the American Le Mans Series prides itself on green racing. The manufacturers love it, the teams love it, the fans love it, but it's also attracted the attention of the U.S. government. And Margot Oge from the Environmental Protection Agency, the Director of Office of Transport and Air Quality, she is with Jamie Howe.
All right, Margot, here we are at the 10 hours of the Petit Le Mans. Why is a race like this so important to the Environmental Protection Agency?
Well, you know, Jamie, I'm so delighted to be here today. The goal of the Environmental Protection Agency is sustainable planet. And this race is very important because it's a race towards advanced clean technologies. So it really helps the country as a whole to lead the way to more advanced technologies, clean technologies, green jobs ahead of every other country. If we can demonstrate these clean technologies in the racetrack, can you imagine how well we're going to do on a morning commute? Given how severe the conditions are here, if these technologies survive here, they will clearly survive the morning commute. So this is a very important event for us, for the agency, for the country, but also for the planet.
One of the things that we deal with on the racetrack is the alternative fuels that the race cars are using. How does that relate to what the EPA is doing?
Well, EPA is doing two things. One is we are promoting advanced clean engine technologies. The second thing that we're doing is we're promoting low carbon fuel. Just think for a moment. This country has a big issue with energy security because we're relying on imported oil. We also have a big issue when it comes to climate change. We as a country contribute significantly to climate change. So what we're doing at EPA, and our hope is, what we're doing with this race, is to improve our energy security efforts so we don't rely on foreign imported oil. So we want to rely on homegrown renewable fuels. And also we want to improve the fuel consumption of our vehicles, which goes back to improving the efficiency of the engines. So what we have here at the race, we have low carbon fuels, we have renewable fuels grown from renewable sources, homegrown fuels. And also what we have is we have advanced engines. We have advanced gasoline engines, advanced diesel, and also I understand, and we are very excited, that today we're going to see for the first time racing the Porsche hybrid, which is a whole different playing field when it comes to improving engines.
You mentioned all of the advancements that have been made in the fuel. How much growth have you seen in the American Le Mans Series since the EPA came on board when it comes to the greening side?
That's a great question. The first time that I came to the Le Mans, the Le Mans Series was using only 10% of ethanol in the fuels and some advancements on engines. Today we have 9 cars that run on cellulosic fuels, that is renewable fuels from wood chips. So that's a big improvement. Also, the first Le Mans we didn't have what we have today with the Porsche, the flywheel hybrid Porsche. So significant improvements have been made, and we are extraordinarily delighted and very proud for what's going on here today.
Well, I know you're excited to be here, so go and enjoy the rest of the race, but thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you, Jamie.
The rest of the race is just beginning. The green flag flies. We are underway again after the first full course caution. Here at the 13th running at Petit Le Mans, Frank Montagny flashes across the line in his Peugeot, and already cars in traffic. Once again, they had caught up with the other classes. It didn't get settled down too much underneath that full course caution. Look at the traffic jam up into 3.
Here's Alan McNish. Essentially, he's the first of the cars that did make a pit stop. Peugeot split their strategy there, kept Montagny out, brought Marc Genet in, and they have had a driver change. It was a little surprising that early in the race doors, as you mentioned, in just 30 minutes in, but obviously they have a plan. So McNish stays out there. Look at that Audi twitching. Talking to Tom Christensen, he said these cars are still really hairy on cold tires, so you got to be very careful.
And you have 4 different classes of cars right there. The LMP2 car of Highcroft Racing, the P1 Audi, the LMP Challenge, the 89. That is Kyle Marcelli. He's the leader in the LMP Challenge category, and you also had a GT Challenge car in there as well. The 54 of Black Swan Racing.
I think everyone took that pit stop just to take a look at the car and to start their strategy, to split the strategy between multi-car teams and so forth. Not that those cars needed service yet, but it gives them a chance to start to look at things and plot out how they're going to run the race.
The other thing that's going to happen here over the first few hours of this race, remember, some of these drivers have not been around all season long. They don't know the drivers very well. They're going to learn the habits of these drivers in the various classes, in the various cars, and certainly they'll start to get a rhythm of this race.
And we talked about how well the Extreme Speed Motorsports team was running. The 02 came to pit road to make their stop, but they're going to have to come back and serve a penalty. Seems like one of the lug nuts went out into the hot lane and pit lane, so that will be an equipment violation. They'll have to come to pit road.
Calvin, I just checked with Peugeot, wanted to talk with Marc Genet, but he's already headed back to the hauler to try and work with the physio. But the team said, hey, we always pull a driver when we do a driver change, so that's what we were doing there. We wanted to split that strategy. We wanted to put new tires on the car. When we do that, we always pull the driver.
See Marcel Fazler trying to get around the 12 in front of him. Chris McMurray in the orange entry from Autocon Motorsports. And it was last year when Chris ran this race that he announced his retirement. And I walked up to him in pit lane the other day. I'm like, wait a minute. And that's pretty much what he said. He said, actually, my family's just tired of having me at home. They wanted me to leave. So Chris McMurray back behind the wheel, doing a good job and glad to be back in a prototype. He said, I went go-kart racing. It's just not the same.
Look at the speed that car shows down the straightaway. We saw Johnny Molan lead laps at Road America, another very high-speed racetrack. So the Autocon entry certainly has a lot of speed. So here we see one of the powerful Audis that really struggled to really stay in the wake of that car there, Dorsey.
These guys are, right now it's pretty tame. It's going to get crazy later on in the afternoon, I think, with these guys running through traffic and so forth.
Johnny Cocker having a good run as well. You were pointing it out, Calvin. Remember the great win, the emotional win that they had at Road America. A lot of strategy came into play there. One of the faster of the petrol cars week in and week out. But they had a lot of damage to that car in Thursday night's practice.
They did. Right here in turn 5, Bert Frizzell lost on cold tires, the number 95 LMPC machine, and Manuel Piro's behind the wheel, slammed into him. Car didn't see any action here yesterday. They had to send the tub, the monocoque chassis, over to Elan to have a repair done. But here it gets really hairy there as they're dicing around there, heading into turn 7, the slowest corner on the racetrack.
And it's 3 of the regular American Le Mans Series competitors. You see John Field and then Chris McMurray in the orange Autocon entry. Autocon at almost all American Le Mans Series events. And then the number 8, let's go back to the LMP Challenge class. Remember, the championship, as we come into the final round, absolutely tied. Gunnar Jeanette right now in the 99.
He's
leading
but
in the category.
He just got the lead actually away because before on the restart back there, Kyle Marcelli was actually leading that category, and Gunnar now takes over.
Well, throughout the season, guys, there hasn't been too much development done on those LMPC cars. It is a spec class, but one thing that they had the option on this weekend were tires. Michelin is the spec tire on those cars, and this weekend they got to choose between a soft tire or kind of a medium tire. Gunnar said he spun in qualifying. They had taken the soft tires, and having to change the tires when he did flat spot them was sort of a blessing in disguise because they were on the soft tires, and he feels a lot of the competitors were also on the soft tires. Of course, now throughout the course of the race, they do have that choice, but it does throw just a little bit of an extra bit of strategy into the race for those guys.
That's a good strategy call indeed. Jeanette leading right now. Let's check on Scott Tucker's hopes. Remember, he has the option of running 2 cars because his team starts 2 cars. Marco Werner in the 95 is 3rd in the LMP Challenge category right now. Scott Tucker running 6th at this point in the event. So Gunnar Jeanette, Elton Julian doing everything that they can do. Christian Zugel as well in that Green Earth Team Gunnar car to stay out in front, try to win Gunnar Jeanette that championship.
Getting back to what Jamie was talking about, the soft tires here this weekend, the LMPC cars have an option tire. They have 4 sets of soft tires for the complete weekend and 12 sets of the medium. So some of the boys elected to use them in qualifying, and certainly as the day cools down and we get that nighttime running, Dorsey, you'd expect those tires to really come into their own and play a part in the last couple of hours of this race.
Yeah, definitely at night driving, you're going to go to the soft compound. I wouldn't want to be using up one of them right now if I had that choice, because knowing they're going to spend some time tonight and it's going to be cool, and that softer tire is going to really respond to that.
Multi-time Le Mans winner, Sebring winner, Marco Werner drafted into Level 5 Motorsports this weekend. Scott Tucker pulling out all the stops to try to claim his championship as Gunnar Jeanette holds down the top spot right now in LMPC. We'll be back to more from the 13th running of the Petit Le Mans, the American Le Mans Series, the final round, the championships on the line from Road Atlanta. We'll bring you great shots from here at Petit Le Mans, but you can pick out some great camera angles yourself with the Speed Onboard Pass presented by Porsche. Get the ultimate 2-screen experience. It's at speed.com, American Le Mans section. Right on board with Flying Lizard, the number 45. That is your championship leader in the GT category of the season-long American Le Mans Series Championship. They flash through turn 1. Patrick Long behind the wheel. He qualified the 45. We talked in qualifying show yesterday. They started 8th, and it's really not where they wanted to be. Now, they did win from the 8th place starting position at the 6-hour race from Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, but the speed in qualifying is really not where their strength has been this year, and we've got another problem, left front down, and I believe that's the 75.
Brian, because the 52 car was in during the break with a right rear, and now we're seeing the Jag having some problems, and maybe there's some debris out there that these guys are running over.
Boy, he just went by pit out, which means that just went flat going down the pit straightaway. He's got to do the whole lap.
Well, Calvin, they're probably separate causes. The 52 car, when he came into pit lane, he came in because he was actually tagged in the rear of the car, which caused some damage to the car on his way to pit road. That's when the tire exploded. So they did have to change that one, but the bodywork, they did replace the bodywork as well, so they did lose some time in pit lane.
He wasn't tagged by a Jaguar, was he? No, I see no damage to the front of Mark Goosen's Jag there. It just looks like the left front either cut down, or don't forget, the left front and the left rear, the left side tires here at Road Atlanta really are punished more so than the right.
Yeah, I assume the damage to the 52 was from the tire flailing around there, but it sounds like he may have got hit by someone to cause the initial puncture. But as you say, Dorsey, this is a long lap to get back. What a run for David Murray here in the 04 car. It's a new car. Robertson Racing running 2 cars for the first time. It's running on E85 fuel. David Murray sat on the pole here, really surprised everyone, but everyone there, but certainly has done a great job here today.
He'd been running as high as second after that round of pit stops, but just had a moment out on the racetrack, having a good run going. This is a look from the Risi Competizione, number 61.
That's a moment, all right.
What, did he get helped?
There by the 62.
The 62 hit the curb on the apex of turn 1 and then vaulted right into the side of David.
If memory serves me correctly, it would not be the first time we've seen Tony Vilander assault someone in one of those Risi Ferraris. Justin?
You know, you talk about maybe potential tire deflations and debris on the track. Well, there's been a couple of the teams, including the Robertson team, that have been over on the pit wall taking a visual inspection of their cars as they come by. Sometimes the drivers report stuff, and as a driver, you're hoping you're giving the right information, but the teams in an endurance race will say, try and stay out unless it's critical and come in. And come in only when we ask. So a couple of visual inspections, they came back to the pit wall, and obviously there was no damage, but it's fast and furious out there.
You know, you saw Mark Goosen, how long it's taken him, and he's not even back yet. But for David Murray, I was talking to David and Anthony Lazzaro the other day, and they said this team, H. Smith and the guys, have done such a spectacular job. The little things, all the details were just immaculate. And he said, you know, even things like the seat, you know, when you're driving with David Robertson, who is a bigger guy, Andrea Robertson, who is a smaller lady, the seat is a big compromise. But all 3 drivers, Rob Bell, Anthony Lazzaro, and David Murray, about the same size, so they fit really well. And he said the car just feels better, even from little things like the seat.
Yeah, and I spoke to David Murray. He said even the pedal box, Lazzaro comes in, he said the pedals are awful. David said, what do you mean? I've been dealing with it all year. And they immediately, the team said, what do you need, boys? They went over to the race shop. They made a whole new pedal assembly, and David Murray said, wow, this is a major difference. I didn't really think it was that bad. Lazzaro said, we can make it much better. So really bringing in new blood will give you new direction as well.
That's the lead GT battle you're looking at right there. Dirk Mueller, the 90 BMW, being hounded, if you will, by Jan Magnussen in the Corvette.
Magnussen wants to win, not only for Corvette. It's been 9 races. They are winless all season long. But Magnussen could be the only man to win a race in every year of American Le Mans Series competition, but he has been struck out so far this year.
Well, Mark Goosen's bringing the Jaguar to pit lane. Left front corner, this tire's just ripped up, so he came in very slowly, didn't want to do any damage to the bodywork. You guys were talking about some potential contact with the 52 car. Doesn't look like any contact on the left side of this car, so I'm assuming it's probably from debris on the racetrack, because also the wheel that came off that left front does look good. Also, the 33 car, the sister car to this Jag, was just pushed behind the wall. A cracked cylinder head on that car.
Understand the 62, Tony Vilander, will get a penalty for the contact with David Murray.
Well, this is one of the things that the team have really tried to drum into these drivers. Hey, you got to...
penalty box, please, for a penalty for hitting the 04 car.
There you hear the radio communication to Tony Vilander. Now, when he made his ALMS debut this year, he's been here before, of course, with Risi. He pretty much hit everyone at Salt Lake City. I don't think he missed anyone on the racetrack. And they said, you got to calm down, mate. Whereas at Motorsport, starting from the back, the car was on the pole. Remember, they did the driver shuffle, the car to start at the back, and here's a replay of it. There you see him just too aggressive there on David Murray down into turn 6, and here we see the other Ferrari take advantage of that situation. But, you know, he really drove a very clean race at Motorsport. Rick May was really impressive. That was superb, exactly what we needed. But today, got that red mist again.
And of course, it's not just the pit stop. There's damage to the front end of that car as well, Dorsey.
It opened up the hole a little bit bigger than what it standardly would be, and that's going to lose some frontal downforce there.
Yeah, and this is not what you want. You've got 10 hours to survive here. If it's not an issue now, maybe it is in hour 8. So you've got to keep it clean.
Damage on the car, Tony? Is there any damage on the car? The front's good. You're right.
You can see damage. You can see how the fender is pushed in and broken,
too, yeah.
as well as on the front fascia damaged as well. So it's like you said, Calvin, maybe not now, maybe an hour from now, 2 hours from now. When are you going to either have to affect repairs, or when is that fender going to come off and cause you greater damage?
This is a time hold, so he has to go down to the penalty box at the very end of pit lane. And the delta, the difference between just driving down pit lane when the car's whistling around the racetrack at full speed is just over 30 seconds. Then he's got a hold here, which I believe will be 60 seconds. So this is significant. That's over a lap here. That is a big hole to pull your way out of.
It is, and I'm really surprised at the amount of smoke that was coming out of the cars. It's just sitting there. It looks like it's just brake smoke, but you wouldn't think it would. You had to brake that hard.
And what's Jimmy Bruni saying? He still had a shot at the championship, and he still does. I mean, we've got a long way to go, but he needed to stay ahead of or close to that 45 car and hope for bad luck for them. Instead, his teammate has set them behind the 8 ball.
Well, the problem with this category this year, Brian, it is so deep. It is so competitive. It's not like you're just dealing with 2 or 3 others. If they have problems, we'll be back up front. No, there's a ton of fast cars here this weekend.
Fast car in class right now. Dirk Mueller leading over Jamie Malo, and then Jan Magnussen and Olivier Beretta. Good to see the Corvettes running 3rd and 4th right now. They have got to get back to their winning ways. As we started the season, who would think that we would get to the final round and not have seen a Corvette up top? Right now, you can see that Jamie Malo running 2nd has gotten past Magnussen as we were reading the order just moments ago. Now remember, this is a 2010 chassis for Jamie Malo in the 61 car. He says he actually likes it better than the 62. It's down the long straightaway, heavy braking at the end.
Look at the Ferrari just starting to suck up to the back of the Corvette. He's getting a little drafting up right there. And top ends him and just goes to the inside.
And Magnussen, Magnussen says it's way too early to fight. We saw Vilander in the fight. Magnussen said, you know what, you got me right now, let's go.
Last hour of the race, I don't think it'd be as
fun. I think it would have been a much wider Corvette. It's Frank Montagny who leads overall. The Lion certainly roaring. The Peugeot out in front, but Alan McNish, the little terrier, as Calvin likes to call him, he's on a charge. A beautiful October day in the hills just northeast of Atlanta, Road Atlanta, the site of the 13th running of Petit Le Mans. This is actually the 40th anniversary for this great facility, and I know that we've all had a chance to run here. We've seen it change over the years. Dr. Don Panos and his staff, what a great job that they have done with it. We talk about the groundskeeping staff here. We did have rain on Wednesday and Thursday, but they've done a great job, and already a problem right now for the 88, one of the GTC entries.
He's another one of the championship contenders. Shane Lewis, one of the drivers in that car this weekend, is definitely in the shot of that championship. So
Shane in the car.
Down into the chicane, 10A. See the skid marks there, I believe.
Shane in the car.
Coming in.
He wants out of there.
Come on, guys, pull me out. And the good thing is there is a cut in the wall right there. They may be able to pull him forward out of that trap without having to bring a wrecker out. But as you can see, the gravel very deep. There's the waving yellow just at the corner right there, and there's the crane that's going to pull him out. And that's a good thing.
Copy that.
Now they'll pull him out, and there is the Porsche Hybrid, and it's a left front tire that's down. So another tire being cut down as the 911 comes to pit road. What a great machine. Romain Dumas behind the wheel right now. So interesting to look over the technical aspects of that. Mark Lieb, one of the Porsche factory drivers, actually running in the 45. engineers on this car from time to time. The great thing is they did a test not long ago, and Mike Rockenfeller was there, as was Timo Bernhard, and they're all good friends. They all used to drive together, but Mark was their boss for a day, and I don't think Timo and Mike thought he was serious at the beginning.
Well, Rocky couldn't handle it. He just looked across the table and just burst out laughing. He said, "You can't be my engineer. I'm used to being your teammate," but they eventually got it sorted out, and Mark has a mechanical degree in mechanical engineering. So team just checking out here. Looks like they got some debris. Maybe a piece of that front tire, Dorsey, got trapped up underneath the rear fender. So good call there by the crew.
Back underway, an impressive piece of technology, the way it all works. And the great thing is you look at these young drivers that are in it, they are the cutting edge of the engineering side of it in the future. And we have a problem right now for the 16. Chris Dyson, who's leading in the P2 category, is really off the pace. I don't see any smoke or fluid, but I don't know if it's
to work on.
Thought might working on something. That's up turn 6, so he's coming onto the straightaway now through 7.
Cycle the master. Cycle the master.
Recycle the master. Something electrical, it seems like perhaps something in the ECU, and they're trying to get it reset.
Clutch.
Could have stuck in a gear, possibly, Dorsey.
Yeah, that's what it is. He's having gearbox issues. Chris reporting clutch. He just said clutch.
Yeah, he's got him again now. Looks like he's good. Looks like he's back up to speed.
While the sophistication of these machines is great, at times it can be a bit of a frustration. It's like your cell phone or your computer at home. You got to recycle it and get it back going. And right now, Chris Dyson seems to be coming back up to speed.
Of course, that shifting is all, paddle shifting is all controlled through that ECU. So when they just reprogrammed it, it's picked back up again.
I'll tell you what, I'd have to say that Chris Dyson has had a great season. I mean, he's really come on form. I mean, the win that this team had at Mid-Ohio was remarkable. Chris Dyson behind the wheel on much older tires than Simon Pagenaud. Pagenaud, one of the fastest boys in the business in one of these P2 machines. And Chris held on for victory that day. First time overall for Mazda. Great win.
Dyson back up to speed right behind him. The 6, Klaus Graf, still suffering a bit from their problem. 61 car right now leading in the GT category. Jamie Melo behind the wheel of the Risi Competizione Ferrari. Here he is out of turn 7 onto the back straightaway. And we were talking earlier, this is a 2010 chassis. He is the leader in the GT category. Remember, Dirk Mueller had been leading, so Melo now has picked up that position.
We saw him just a couple of laps ago take a position away from Jan Magnussen, and here we go down at the brake zone, back straight away, Dorsey. Similar situation, pulled a nice draft on Dirk Mueller, just slides it to the inside, and the BMW drivers, just like the Corvette boys, recognizing it's a long race. You're faster right now, we'll let you go.
Ferraris definitely seem to have top end. Look at him, just pulling right up in the draft the way you want to. Moves out early. Just no contest whatsoever.
While the 62 car is certainly a good car, and Melo has spent time in it, that 2010 chassis, he says, is just a bit stiffer, reacts a little bit better, and we understand the 90, Dirk Mueller getting a penalty. He's on pit road for avoidable contact. Certainly in not that incident. We didn't see it there in the battle with Jamie Melo, but somewhere along the way, Mueller has made contact with another car, and the officials not happy about it at all. Mueller to pit road.
I'll tell you, else who's not going to be happy is that team. I mean, they need to keep these boys right up in the mix. You can't afford these sort of penalties. Here we go again. It's going to be just like Vilander. He's going to be a stop and go. It's going to cost him a lap.
Touch anybody, guys.
Said he didn't touch anybody. Shane Lewis, we know, was off in the gravel trap. Oh, yeah, he did. He moved over on line there. Shane Lewis had nowhere to go, Dorsey. He's already on that white line. Dirk just wanted a little bit more of the road. Innocent enough, but cost Shane Lewis, one of the championship contenders in that class.
And it's going to cost an entire lap. I mean, these type of penalties, you just can't recover from these things.
And you can't be making them. I mean, we're 59 minutes in, basically an hour into this thing, and we've already seen high-level professional drivers making mistakes on the racetrack. Chris?
Well, a Highcroft machine in pit lane, just taking fuel, no tires here. But the crew really taking their time looking at all of the braking, mainly pulling a lot of debris out of the ducts to the front brakes to make sure that they can cool those brakes throughout this event. But it's pretty amazing early on how much debris they actually pulled out of there. And Simon Pagenaud, just an amazing pace in the first hour of this race. I checked in with Dyson to see if there was anything wrong, and that camp just saying Chris is just taking his time. Traffic is completely nuts out there, so we think we have the pace of the Highcroft car. We're just playing it more conservative.
Well, this is the first pit stop of the day.
So I think it'd be better to think of stint.
Talking about his tires, trying to give some feedback to the team. So it's their first pit stop of the day. They didn't take that early opportunity, and hence everything's going to change a little bit. Remember, our leader has been in now, so McNish now is at the top of the board in the 7 car, so Montagny has had to make his first pit stop of the day as well.
Well, you know, we questioned Highcroft for changing the aerodynamic profile of this car through the last several rounds. They went to a Le Mans downforce zone, a problem for one of the LMP Challenge cars. It's Marco Werner, I believe, in the 95 Level 5 Motorsports entry. Remember, he carries part of Scott Tucker's championship in his hand, so it looks like a problem for Werner, and that actually is the second time he's been off today. But I was talking about the Highcroft team. They've gone back to the larger rear wing. They were allowed to make that change for this round, and it really seems to be the magic. As I look back, I still think it was an error to go to those low downforce setups to try to just find top speed.
Yeah, the low downforce setup they're running is what they ran at Le Mans. They thought it would be better here in the American Le Mans Series, but you know, they still believe that was the right choice. We look at that in terms of lap time. It seems like the 6 car has stretched it in terms of when they're running that. They're back to the high downforce configuration. They look good again here at Road Atlanta.
Right now, Marco Werner trying to get up to speed. Alan McNish at the front of the field trying to hold on to that position. Audi looking for redemption here at Petit Le Mans after losing out to Peugeot last year. So McNish has his Audi to the front, but there is a lot more battle to be waged here from Road Atlanta. Simon Pagenaud, David Brabham, they're looking for a championship, as is Gunnar Jeanette. Battles all around this racetrack. Championships still very much up for grabs in the final round of the 2010 American Le Mans Series season. We'll be back. Back in the 13th running of Petit Le Mans. From the drop of the green, it was Peugeot's out in front, Audi's giving chase, but the problem started for many of the competitors very early on. You see McNish up and over the curve, gets around the Peugeot in front. The battle for the LMP title certainly up for grabs. The Peugeot says, no, I had enough of that. I'm going to get back past you there, Alan. So Alan McNish wisely lets him go, but look at this down in turn 1.
Yeah, this was pretty hairy there. Montagny makes the move on his teammate. Allen was right behind him, gives him a little love tap there. No big deal, about 140 miles an hour.
We said the problem started early on. There's Bill Sweedler. That's an exciting moment coming down the hill. But the good news is that car back out and running. Problem for the 40 car, Robertson Racing. David Robertson, Andrian Robertson, Craig Stanton in that 40 car, and the 33, the Jaguar entry on pit road.
Cracked cylinder head, we believe, and then we heard about the misfire. You could hear it on our show here a little bit earlier, and this is big drama for this team. They've spent a lot of time on pit lane. They've lost a lap or two on Pagenaud and company, so that is not good news for the 6 team.
Had a lot of flat tires. Most of these look like they're puncture-related tires, not really explosions, but that one in particular is an inside tire, and that wouldn't be the one. Here's a good look at David Murray. Yeah, David Murray getting accosted.
Maybe that's how some of the debris gets on the racetrack, and Vielander had to come to pit road. Bo Barfield said, no, we're not going to have any of that, but the 61 very strong out there in the hands of Jamie Mello. Then Dirk Mueller, and just not giving Shane Lewis enough room. And that brings him to pit road.
Yeah, Shane will be very frustrated by that because he needs a good solid result. You can't afford any damage either. Remember, Shane Lewis still very much in this GTC championship battle.
Yeah, Bobby Rahal, Scott Remke not going to be too happy with Dirk Mueller on that one. It was innocent enough, but it was still enough to get him to come to pit road. You cannot make those kind of mistakes just an hour into this event. After the exchange of pit stops, it's Alan McNish now out in front in the number 7 Audi R15, leading by about 17 seconds over Marcel Fessler. So we got Audi's 1-2, Peugeot's 3-4. Is it that strategy that's going to bring him back up there? But don't forget about the GT Challenge class as well. 63 flashes by right there in the hands of Andy Lally. TRG, Kevin Buckler and the boys looking for another victory. They had one earlier in the year at Lime Rock Park. They'd like to end the season here at Petit Le Mans with a victory in the GT Challenge category.
That car was one of the cars damaged the other day in practice, backed into the wall, took off the wing. Most of the back end of that car, it's all been replaced.
TRG returned to the ALMS. It's been 2005 since we last seen them run, but Looked like they were really in with the shot at the championship, then it went awry for a couple of races there, didn't get the results they were looking for. Suddenly they're here just for the laurels of a Petit win. It was certainly something that all of these drivers want on their resume.
Andre Richard, Duncan Indy sharing that car with Andy Lally this weekend. Andy was saying, you know, he doesn't get a chance to run here at Road Atlanta much, even though he just lives a few miles away, but he said he felt like last winter was really hard on this racetrack. Very bumpy, he said, and these cars hard to handle around here. Those are the points the way they stand right now. Shane Lewis, after being knocked off the track, has dropped back a little bit. That's frustrating for him. He came in here within 30 points of Pappas and Bleakmole and now has dropped back a little bit. But the other thing that Andy was saying is the ride height on this Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car is relatively high. The the tires very narrow. And trying to get this car through the S's, really high center of gravity, really wants to roll around a lot, very uncomfortable.
These are probably the most difficult race cars to run because they don't develop the amount of grip either aerodynamically or through the tire that a lot of the other cars do. So we saw Bill Sweedler have that moment coming down into 12, got two wheels off there. Every one of these corners, Dorsey, is really tricky in one of these GTC cars. You're really hanging on.
It is, and because that car is so narrow, it doesn't have the big bulbous fender flares for the big tires. Well, it's really fast. Down the straightaway, it doesn't have the aero drag that the big GT cars do.
And we talked about the aerodynamics in the qualifying show. They've been allowed to get rid of that rear gurney lip on the back of that rear wing. And that's going to add, what do you think, Calvin? Maybe a couple, 2-3 miles an hour?
Absolutely. What the gurney lip is, it's a little trailing edge. You can possibly see it on camera there on the rear wing of Andy Lally's car there. It's a little lip, and what it does, it adds downforce. It traps the air on the rear wing a little bit longer, gives it grip. Well, a lot of the teams were complaining that that's really created an understeer in the car. There's too much grip at the back. They want to change the ballast, so the teams are now allowed to take that gurney off if they choose to do so. If they do that, it's going to balance the car better and also give it more straightaway speed.
Yeah, it's a double plus. You know, you're getting rid of the push off the front end, but you're also gaining top end.
That's Jerome Bleekemolen in the 54, the Black Swan Racing entry, sharing it with his brother Sebastian Bleekemolen and team owner Tim Pappas.
Looks like he is running one. You can see that little black edge all the way along the rear trailing edge of that rear wing. He's definitely got the gurney on that car.
You mentioned that he is running with his brother Sebastian. I was speaking with Jerome earlier in the weekend. He said, you know, it's really actually fun to share the car with his brother. When they race over in Europe in the Super Cup, they're usually rivals, and so that makes it difficult on their parents. But right now, their parents are able to watch this race back at home. Their dad would be here this weekend, except he's a racer in his own right. He's racing in the German GT Championship this weekend, so a lot of family racing going on, but Jerome said it's just a joy to drive with him.
Sebastian joined that team at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, where they came away with another of their victories. So obviously a very well-established driver, a very talented driver as well. Looking right there at the number 4 Corvette, Jan Magnussen running second in GT. We talked about how desperate, and I think really that is the word, desperate this team is to walk away with a victory here in this final round of 2010.
Well, we're so used to seeing Corvette racing dominate in whatever category they're in. Certainly it was GT1 for a number of years. They made the switch to GT2 racing last year, but let's get to pit lane with Chris.
Yeah, Joey Hand in the 90. The car is not starting, guys. This was just going to be a routine pit stop, fuel and tires, and getting Joey Hand behind the wheel, but now the car is not starting. So you can see Joey Hand in there doing everything he can to try and get that starter to turn over. The team is going to rock the car back and forth to see if it's possibly stuck, but they cannot push these cars to get them started, so he's going to have to try and get this car started. But, oh, guys, this is horrible. This car was leading early on. Then they had to come in because of that penalty, because of contact out there, dropped them back to about 11th in class, and now issues with trying to get this car started.
Chris, is the engine turning over at all, or will the starter not engage?
The starter is not engaged. Nothing's happening down here. I can see Joey hitting the starter button, but I'm not hearing anything going on there. Right now, one of the mechanics underneath the back of the car, and he's it sounds like he's banging on the starter, trying to see if he can free something up back there, but nothing happening here, guys. This car is dead in the water.
Yeah, you see the guy underneath there whacking away at the starter motor, trying to free it up.
Car worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, working on it with a hammer.
Spinning, no engagement. It's trying. It's just catching.
So the start, it sounds like the starter's spinning, Dorsey, but it's not engaging the flywheel. Is that it?
Well, it could be stuck in the flywheel too. You know, if it's jammed up into the flywheel.
Tapping on it, it was getting self-drive.
This is not what this team needed. They had such a great run at Road America. Remember, the last 2 years in a row, they have actually just dominated there. But right now, problems on pit road, and this is not what they needed. They wanted to finish this season with another victory and end it strong. Frustration continuing. Joey Hand trying to work on it, pumping the clutch a little bit, trying to disengage things, see if that helps. See the mechanics turning the rear tire, trying to spin things around. Joey Hand shaking his head. Already problems cropping up very early, just an hour and 13 minutes into the 13th running at Petit Le Mans, and already problems for the BMW Rahal Letterman Racing team. You know, the Michelin Green X Challenge is a vital manufacturer competition within each 2010 American Le Mans Series race, and it rewards the greenest prototype and GT team at each event. The race car that goes the farthest, the fastest, and with the smallest environmental impact registers the best score. So you can follow the competition throughout the season on AmericanLeMans.com and follow the race right here on Speed Live all the way to the checkers. Wednesday night, Speed Primetime is packed with adrenaline. First man and machine are pushed to the limit on all-new intersections. And at 10, Jason Britton stunts Denver in an all-new Stealth Rider. The action begins Wednesday at 8, only on Speed. Well, we talked about the Green X Challenge a bit earlier, and remember, it's both for prototypes and the GT category. Let's check in with prototypes first. Drayson Racing, the number 8 out in front on the Michelin Green X Challenge standing so far in this event. Then the 07 Peugeot and 37 Intersport Racing, good to see them up there as well. Remember, GT category as well has a Michelin Green X Challenge category. It's the 01 Extreme Speed Ferrari, then the Flying Lizard Motorsports Porsche, and then the Ferrari of Risi Competizione. And Flying Lizard is good at this, guys. They've taken the victory, the Michelin Green X Challenge victory, several times throughout the season. And look at the cars, not only inside the racetrack, but they're parked across the street in the little Lanier Speedway as well. Look at the cars, the fan, what a great turnout.
Yeah, this has really turned into a major sports car race. I mean, all of the teams want to win it, but all of the fans want to be here too. Now we're seeing one of the Audis, Fessler, making his second pit stop of the day. You would expect to see a driver change possibly this time. A little bit of fluid there pouring out of the breather tube there, Dorsey, at the back of the gearbox.
Yeah, that was a bit unusual, being that he just come off the track. You wouldn't think it would overheating from sitting on pit lane, but there was definitely, it was spewing something out there.
It's not a particularly warm day either.
No, staying in, so they're double stinning these tires at the ready, but I'm not sure they're going to be changing. Got the thumbs up from the Michelin guy.
This driver is staying in the car. They're obviously waiting for the fuel to finish going in. At this point, you're trying to keep as routine a pit stop as you can, as you know, but the 7 car is just about to stage to come in just as the 9 pulls out. So obviously Manish coming down pit lane now. Audi on deck for this. We'll see what happens in this pit stop. At the moment, obviously Alan looks like he's staying in, just new tires.
Saw that same little telltale bit of steam out the back. The Michelin gentleman there in that blue and white and yellow fire suit looking underneath the back of the car. He'll signal the tire, he'll signal the crew. He gives them the thumbs up, so it'll be fuel only, it appears.
Yeah, the Michelin guys allowed out there. You're just supposed to just only refuel, but you are allowed both brake and tire technicians to be out there during the refueling period to actually examine the tires and the brakes and give the team the thumbs up.
McNish leaves as one of the Peugeots comes in. That is the 08 with the darker mirrors right now, the 08 on pit road.
08 is Montagny. Now the 07 is with the blue mirrors, so that's...
Yeah, so that's the 07 on pit road.
Yeah, that's Wirtz.
See if they double stint the tires as well. Justin, what do you see?
Well, the biggest difference is they have to clean the windscreen. So in my technical world, I'll tell you that's what's happening. Amazing the temperature, the steam, smoke coming off the front brakes as they pull out. Another thing for the viewers, every time I watch these diesel cars, I always say it, it's the silence almost, or relative silence as they pull away, not really chirping the tires, just hearing the diff working as they pull out, and obviously the diesel engine's so quiet compared to gas engine. Chris, you probably got a different story down there.
Well, the BMW is still up in the air. The Rahal Letterman crew still under the car. They removed the rear bumper cover, and they're still trying to get that starter changed at the back end of the car. They still haven't pulled out the starter that has failed. And, you know, this is one of the things that highlights the GT and the prototype class. How many times over the years have we seen massive changes to the prototype cars, especially the Audis? We've seen them change the entire rear end of that car and also gear clusters in under 10 minutes. And this team's still struggling, probably well over 10 minutes, just to get that starter out of the car, just because there's so many different components packed in at the rear end of this GT car. And once they do, they've got a brand new starter on the ground that they're going to try and get in there. But these guys still struggling to get the failed one out.
Problems right now for the 02 Extreme Speed Motorsports entry, one of the Ferraris that ran so well. It's Ed Brown behind the wheel. Coming down into 10A and, just under braking. Mismatch the downshift, Dorsey, or
That's
just
what it looked like.
too much
for
rear
sure.
brake bias?
No, because most of his braking was done already. Let's see. Listen here. That was, I think, it was mismatched downshift and the fact that he had a lot of speed still going on.
We talk about championships throughout the paddock. The LMP championship up for grabs as well. LMPC, and the 99 is on pit road. And we understand Gunnar Jeanette's going to get a stop and go for speeding on pit lane. I believe it's Elton Julian who's getting in the car on this pit stop. Tires are out. They have not put them on. Are they going to change tires or not? Yep, the car's coming up in the air. Now, the pit rule's very different on the challenge class cars than in the LMP or the GT class cars. So either GT Challenge or LMP Challenge, they're limited to the number of crew members over the wall and limited to the number of guns, which is why they have said a lot of times we never change tires in the race. We'll run them from green flag to checkered.
Yeah, it's actually 2 guys, as you can see, and only 1 gun at a time. They could switch guns that they just did between side to side of the car, but this is a reason that they don't want to be changing tires. A lot of the sprint races this year, the teams have opted to not change tires just to save that time. When they started the year, there was a mandatory 4-tire stop for the sprint races. They realized, wow, these guys are just wasting a lot of money changing tires. The Michelin tires are good to go the distance. So this is a little surprising here that they're changing tires this early in the race.
And another mistake. We've talked about this before, Dorsey. Now a mistake on Gunnar Jeanette's part, speeding on pit road. It's not going to be a stop and hold for 60 seconds, but Elton Julian will have to come back in. He'll have to do a stop and go.
Yep, he'll go out, make a lap back to pit lane, have to come all the way through, stop, and do it all over. And going back to what Chris was talking about, the BMW, for all the BMW fans at home, the starter motor at the back of that car is not the way it came from the factory. They put the starter motor to the drive shaft and spin the engine up that way, and that puts the weight to the back of the car and gets it off at the nose of the car, gives it a better balance.
Elton Julian's going to have to get on the horse and ride it hard because Marco Werner, second place in LMP Challenges, on pit road doing his stop. Remember, Julian's going to have to come back around right back in.
On the dash, good, all right. Sorry.
You've got to think that Werner will take over the point when Elton Julian serves his penalty. Otherwise, he would have been good to go. Werner stays in the car, no tires even laid out, so I got to assume fuel only.
Yeah, and you see the work that's allowed to be done with the Peugeot. The windshield was allowed to be cleaned, and the little flip up there on the bodywork, the little deflector so that the head doesn't buff in these open cockpit cars, that's allowed to be cleaned as well during the refueling process.
Believe it or not, you sit so low in there, that little bitty reflector, you actually do look good. So when it gets dirty, it does hinder your vision.
It makes a huge difference. You'll sometimes see with different height drivers, they'll actually change the height of that because just a 1/4 of an inch will make a big difference. That air packs underneath the helmet and literally shakes your head to pieces down the long straightaways here.
Marco Werner heading down pit road as he leaves the pits and heads up the hill. Here comes Gunnar Jeanette into 10A and 10B, or Elton Julian, I should say, out of 10B, and he needs to come straight to the pits. Get it done, get it over with, don't argue it. You get back onto pit road.
Frustrating, that just that one little mistake right there.
Well, now we got to find out, can he get onto pit road and back out onto the racetrack in front of Werner? He was at 10 when Werner was coming onto the racetrack.
I don't think he will, because the problem is they changed all 4 tires as well, whereas Werner didn't. So that cost you time on pit lane, and then there's 30 seconds plus the delta between driving down pit lane at 60 kilometers an hour. That's about 60 kilometers an hour, about 37 miles per hour.
It's so slow when you come off that back straightaway after doing 150 plus mile per hour.
Julian down to the penalty box. He'll pull it to the right, stop, and then go. And we're looking for Marco Werner in his level 5 motorsports entry. Here he comes onto the front straightaway, I believe. Now he's going into 10. That was the other level 5 car. So Marco just going into 10, and Julian, he's gotten out, guys.
Yeah, but Yeah, I think he's going to stay on the lead lap. Just looking at timing and scoring here as it's about to cycle. So yeah, he is barely on the lead lap, but not by much. So a little bit lucky there that it didn't cost him a lap, because suddenly if there's a yellow, you know, things just shake out. Oh, and now contact with Werner there, and the 04 is off in the grass.
And we talk about anything could happen. Just as good fortune befell the level 5 team, now a contact with the 04, David Murray.
Again. He's been in the wars today.
Gosh. And I saw some of the carbon fiber aero devices on that 4 GT got ripped off when he went across that curb and through the grass.
Hang on.
With a look from Marco Werner's point of view, just when they had a little good luck, it almost goes well south. Now remember, the GT cars are very quick in a straight line. Oh, if David Murray just didn't see him, where he sits in that 4 GT and how low that prototype is, begins to turn in.
Yeah,
maybe he thinks Werner's just going to clear him a little bit more.
Yeah, I wouldn't put the blame of Werner's door on that one. No. I don't think David was aware that Werner was going to make the move, so he tried to turn in. His marker was already alongside him, pretty much 70% alongside him, so that's really David Murray's issue there.
We'll definitely agree. Klaus Graf now onto pit road in the number 6.
Right on the sign, be nice and conservative. Right on the sign here. Here we go.
Jeff Carter bringing him in. Really tight to the pit wall.
Overshot it just a little bit, Jamie.
Yeah, he did overshoot it. There are a lot of people on pit road. I think he was probably trying to avoid some of them. Looks like they're going to do fuel only. I just spoke with Jeff right before the car came into the pits, and he said, we know that our misfire problem isn't going to sort itself out, but we also don't think it's going to get any worse. So we're just going to keep running the race as we had planned. We're going to do our best. So fuel's still going in. Klaus just getting a drink of water from the crew guys. No other work can be done on the car while the fuel's going in. And they don't really need anything else right now. So it is now underway.
P2's only getting 80 liters of fuel here this weekend, so it's going to be a little bit faster start than they've had all season long. But right now, they don't have the speed to run down the Patron Highcroft car. They need that Highcroft car to have issues today to try and clinch this championship.
Klaus Graf back underway in the field, streaming around. As pit stop cycle through, it's Frank Montagny who's gone back to the point. Alan Nish sits second, so we've got a long way to go. Just an hour and a half down, and we could have as many as another 8.5 hours worth of competition here from Petit Le Mans. There's a good look at the leaders in each class. Right now, the 5 different classes. Kyle Marcelli, what an impressive young man, now leads in the LMP Challenge category. It's Jamie Malo who holds on in GT2. You know, just last week, Greenville, South Carolina, the home of Michelin here in North America, hosted Motorsports on Main. A star-studded event. It was the cars, it was the stars of the series on Main Street there in Greenville. Michelin employs over 3,000 people there in the Greenville area, and they wanted to show them what they do in motorsports, and I can tell you the fans turned out in droves.